Aloha. My name is Ākea Kahikina. I come from the sands of Oneula, Honouliuli, in the moku of Ewa in Oahu. And I'm also kama'aina of Kaweakiu Kuli'o'o in the moku of Kona. My ohana comes from my dad's side, come from the island of Hawaii, more specifically Hamakua, Honoka'a, Honohina, Ninole, Kalopa. And then for my mom's side, her family predominantly comes from Ka'ava on the island of Oahu, with some relation to South Kona as well. So I am a Hawaii and Oahu person, descendant through and through. Yeah, and I currently live in Kapahulu and serve the Pai'aina in different ways that I can. But my heart and is definitely in Oahu and Hawaii. My kulana currently and forevermore will be a haumana of life, haumana of hula and hoiva'a, storytelling. I think I'm a haumana first, but more than that, I think in olapa, ahai, mo'olelo, mea keaka. I'd like to say that I'm a weaver of voices. So in terms of writing, editing, directing, that is like kulana and kuleana to then uplift other voices and weave them into a lei of sorts that kind of demonstrates past, present, and future. Hui. I was raised Catholic, went to Sunday school in Ewa Beach, OLPH, Our Lady of Perpetual Help. Love that. But I stopped going, I think, around third grade. I didn't do my communion, didn't do my confirmation, all of that. I don't know why we stopped, but I think it was just I think my parents kind of realized that, man, it's not really serving, not really giving. We didn't really have any, like, I would say, cultural traditions in terms of Hawaii. Not really much talk of akua or aumakua in any sense. Hula was strong in my sister. But yeah, I only started hula in high school, and then paddling came into our life around high school time. So I'd say like cultural practice, hula, and paddling, and then olelo came into my life around that time too. So, I think now, so more so making traditions now, but growing up, I think the framing of Catholicism as the moral compass really frames a lot of my things that I'm unpacking in my 30s. And re-establishing otherworldly relationships that are not based in kind of this Christian sense is something I'm also exploring now. So I think it's such a weird place. How do I say this? Even the most knowledgeable, culturally sound, culturally informed people I know oftentimes have like relationships with the Christian God. So for me as mahu, I feel like that's such a I don't want to say schism, but it's kind of like a weird juxtaposition because I think in a colonial way we think it's either or, like you are either all in with Ho'omana Hawaii or you're all in with Christianity, and there's really no kind of like gray area. But we find that in examples of today and yesteryear that a lot of people compartmentalize it to be like, I pray to Yesu for these reasons, and I pray to Laka for these reasons. Like it's kind of and versus or. So I myself am trying to figure out what that looks like. I'm not Christian in any sense, but I think in my 30s now, I'm trying to have grace and like really not come from a place of Catholic judgment in a way, to look at other people who have relationships with the Christian God to say like, oh, okay, like love that for you because it, doesn't affect me. But yeah, I think in the quest to feel like we're renormalizing our other relationships with other akua, that I find myself not feeling safe in Christian spaces, though Christian values say that it's about love and acceptance and, feeling like open. I just haven't felt that. So yeah, it's just a weird, like liminal space to be in where it's, and like for example, with Kumuhina, like, she attends church, but she's like super knowledgeable about Akua and a super proud, member of the Mahu community. So I think I just kind of are wowed and like amazement of like, huh, you can like be in all of these spaces and it's okay. You don't have to choose one or the other. And I'm learning how to not and just to like not be mutually exclusive in those things. It's interesting again how this kind of liminal space between Christian faith and then older Polynesian oceanic traditions meet up together to be like, oh yeah, like it kind of just gets melded together and it works for people and like that's cool. I feel like Mahu issues are sometimes, if not most times, relegated to only Mahu. In our panel, Kuka Kiki, Kamalani Johnson had mentioned that, if we were to have more Ea in the Lahui, then Mahu issues should be Wahine issues and Kane issues. In the same way where Kane issues should be Mahu issues and Wahine issues. If we truly are a collective in that, we should not be thinking colonially like there's a specific department for each of the things. I do believe that Mahu should lead, and especially in issues that are directly related to them. But I feel like the kind of slippery slope of when we have awesome things like Ahakane and Ahawahine and Ahamahu, I think the temptation is to be like, oh, okay, well, Wahine, that's like only like Wahine stuff, so let's just let them do it. But really, our Wahine issues are directly linked to Wahine that have partners with Kane, Wahine that have partners with Wahine or Mahu. So I think how Mahu can help elevate Lahui and Lahui related issues is that kind of transformation, that hulihia of changing our perspectives on that it's only in boxes, but rather we are different pua in a lei that kind of are bound together, or ulana together if we're a moena. I don't necessarily know how to like answer like what they will be doing specifically, but I think one of the symptoms of hulihia is because mahu live in liminal spaces to be like, oh, it is Kane and Wahine, therefore I should be invested in this. And not so much in the way of like Kane being like, let me lead the Mahu things and let Kane lead Wahine things, not saying that. But I think that they should show up to these meetings. They should show up to the exhibits. They should show up and with an ear to learn, an ear to listen, an eye to watch, and not come ready to respond and have like your thoughts shared, but to come in and just learn. That's very humbling. And something I'm, learning as I go to, but to, I guess, renormalize coming into spaces that you're a malihini and just learn from the kama'aina. I think oftentimes we have to like prove ourselves when we feel insecure about our own Hawaiianness or indigeneity and perform things, come into spaces like, no, I know this, like I know that, I know the kumuli board, no. Let's like huli hear that and just when renormalize not knowing things and coming in to build up. I think with belonging, belonging in English to me insinuates like a state of being or a passive way of like, I belong, like I just exist and I belong to, I don't know, the Mahu community or the trans community, LGBTQ communities. Anyway, and I feel like in Olelo, where we kind of see a lot of duality of a verb that's aku and then a verb mai. Ike aku, ike mai, kokua aku, kokua mai. So I like to apply this idea that belonging to belong somewhere is both like something you belong aku, belong mai, in that you give a sense of belonging to someone in the same way where you receive a sense of belonging. where for, let's say, Kanaka, I feel like as we have Kanaka in the diaspora, when they come home, we have an obligation to give them opportunities and space to feel that, to feel like they belong, instead of feeling like gatekeeping and being like, oh, you have to like earn your place, or you have to like, do your time or whatever. That way, when people come back home or show up to spaces where they want to learn olelo or hula, they don't feel so intimidated and feel like they got a chip on their shoulder, but that they can actually now do the work to become part of that. So, in the sense of belong aku, belong mai, people who have been given ike have the kuleana to provide space, kumu for haumana, because kumu can't be kumu without haumana. In the same way where people who don't know, who are haumana and don't have the ike, have the kuleana to show up to things and humble themselves to become haumana, rather than waiting for an invite, for that may not ever come. That's what Pumunoi Silva says. It's like, as Kanaka, we have a birthright to our language and our culture and to learn, but Ike is never passive in that it's just going to get handed to you. Even with, your kupuna, traditionally you have to sit with them and spend days and years, and that leads to access. Just like in passing sometimes of like, oh, this la'au lapa'au is this, or, a little story here and there that's like totally unexpected. So showing up to learn, but also showing up to teach is really what I feel like is belonging in the kuleana of belonging. So I appreciate this title, because I think it really demonstrates the magic, the power, and also like the non-definitive forms of mahu, in the sense that Pōhaku are used to build things, hold things. They can birth children. They can birth other Pōhaku. And I feel like with mahu, in that sense, the kuleana is also there, where mahu very much, in our history, have been very, how do I say, diverse in their kuleana. We have mahu that are healers, not all, right? Not all mahu are healers, but we have healers. We have people who raise children. We have people who are teachers. When we went to Molokai, we were proud to see that the whole Pai Mahu in Molokai, they run the transportation of Molokai. They're the bus drivers and the educators. One of them is the mail person that brings all the mail. Like, it's not so, I think, archaic kahiko of like, oh, they were only this and all that. Like we're living, breathing people that do things and are respected in the community. So I think, again, it just really talks about the elasticity and this kind of non-limiting forms of mahu being a mist that can, make you numb and cool. And at the same time, it could be something that blocks your way. You don't really know what's going on, At the same time, Pōhaku is something to build and stand on. And at the same time, Pōhaku can be obstacles that you have to climb over. Olelo is so dualistic in that, where it's just, there's so many things, it's so many contexts. And with that makavalu sense, right, that you can look at a Pōhaku, but maybe 8 ways to use a Pōhaku, right? Or 8 names for a single mist, like 8 types of mists. I think that then looking at mahu, what are, 8 different people that have different kuleana that still call themselves mahu. You have the same name, but they live different lives and are called to different things. I think as someone who has recently claimed the word, I still find solace in it, at the same time find it a place to do more work, because I'm still unmooring myself from this idea that mahu are only, people who we might categorize as people who will go across genders, from kane to wahine or wahine to kane. And I'm finding that because I've been called that word my whole life by people who probably don't even know, all these mo'olelo about mahu, I find power in that, and I find like, I'm going to use this this pain and this kind of that's been cast to now make it a place of healing for people who have gone through similar situations and just wear it with pride and you know find more examples and more places to I think put the little stone in the lake and then have the little ripple effect. I think owning the word mahu is the first step to that, and the healing will come. And it's to the mahu kupuna before us, current mahu like kumuhina, who have really like re-normalized the word for people that we can do things and put this in the forefront bravely.